In this video I'm going to analyse Rasmus Hojlund's opening goal in the 2-2 draw versus Tottenham, looking at why Bruno Fernandes is crucial to Ten Hag's attack and has to play ahead of a double pivot precisely in the area where he received the ball, but also why Christian Eriksen continues to be a defensive liability in midfield, which we saw in the lead up to the goal. And I'll be comparing United's attack to one of the best counter-attacks in football history, and United themselves over the years could have a claim to a few of these, with Ferguson's United having a number of scintillating attacks over the Premier League years, from Ronaldo, Tevez and Rooney to Giggs, Beckham, York and Cole, and you can find all of their United retro jerseys over at Jersey FIFA. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you'll also get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which will be linked in the description. So in a statistical analysis video which I did the other week on Bruno Fernandes' creative numbers, a few people in the comments commented that Fernandes gives the ball away far too much, but as I stated in that video, I think this is more down to the system and instructions from Ten Hag, as without Bruno Fernandes attempting these risky killer passes, United's counter-attack would be significantly less potent. Tottenham's high line, advanced fullbacks as well as Rashford and Garnacho's movement in behind meant that this style of game is exactly where United thrive, and Hojlund's ferocious finish inside the opening minutes is exactly what United need from their centre forward. And we saw Fernandes' creative influence for both goals, but the first specifically showcased why Fernandes has to play ahead of a double pivot as a number 10, or at least take up positions in the forward line rather than the midfield line when the ball is in United's half. So here we see in the lead up to United's opening goal that Tottenham have possession in the middle third, and as the ball gets shifted over to Romero on the right side, Rashford is taken up an incredibly narrow position, man-to-man pressing Bentancur, which in turn opens up a large amount of space on Tottenham's right side. However, I actually don't see an issue with this, and it's something that I would want to see more from United's wide midfielders in that midfield four, taking up narrow positions in order to close off the spaces between them and the central midfielders on their inside, as even though Rashford's positioning does allow Romero to play the ball down the outside of United's defensive shape into Pedro Porro on Tottenham's right flank, this is a much better option than having Rashford hold a wider position to stop the pass out wide and instead leaving space for Bentancur between him and Eriksen. And that's simply because when the pass does go out to Porro, Wan-Bissaka can follow him up the flank assertively, and in theory the left-sided central midfielder, who's sitting slightly deeper than Rashford, can then shift over and stop Tottenham creating a numerical advantage down that side. The problem for United, however, not just in this clip but also throughout the game, was that that player was Christian Eriksen, who just hasn't got the athleticism nor the defensive reading of the game to move over and cover these sorts of areas effectively. Either Varane or Eriksen has to track Porro, whilst the other one drops into the space next to Johnny Evans in order to cover a third man run from Bentancur. Varane goes out with Porro, and so now Eriksen has to either cut off the passing field from Porro into Richarlison or drop off into the back line in order to track the run of Bentancur. Eriksen, however, does neither. He doesn't check his shoulder, which allows Bentancur to make a third man run off of him, as Richarlison has dropped off Evans, who can't step out with him due to Varane being pulled out wide. And so this allows Richarlison to neatly play a first time pass around the corner to find Bentancur's run off of Eriksen between the two centre backs, and now Tottenham have the ball in a dangerous crossing position around the box. However, fortunately for United, because Richarlison initially dropped off deep to link the play, and Werner has held a wide position on the left, Bentancur doesn't have anyone in the centre to find, but also Dalot's positioning is excellent, and Onana's as well, and so because the ball across the box is being cut off by Dalot, this results in Bentancur going for an aerial cross, which Onana does well to claim, and from here is where we see United at their attacking best, counter-attacking after a turnover in their defensive third, with Onana and Garnacho transitioning the attack quickly. Garnacho sets off instantly, being found by Onana's throw, and his decision making here is perfect. Rather than doing what I think Antony would have done, which is try to drive down the outside of Skip, eventually running down the line and getting into a cul-de-sac, Garnacho releases the ball early, and here is where we see Bruno Fernandes at the centrepiece of Ten Hag's counter-attack. If we rewind slightly, we can see that as Garnacho receives possession from Onana, Bruno Fernandes has retained a high position, whilst Eriksen has dropped alongside Mainu into the defensive third, and Ten Hag has to continue to use Bruno here, more as a number 10 ahead of a double pivot, rather than in a 2 ahead of a single pivot. As being used in a midfield three, Bruno is likely going to be around the box when Garnacho receives the ball, and so he wouldn't be in this sort of advanced position, ready to receive the pass in the massive amount of space in front of Tottenham's defensive line, which has been vacated by Bentancur pushing forward to get into the box, and Hojlund retreating pretty early in order to provide cover for the advanced Tottenham fullbacks, leaving Skip completely isolated in the centre of the pitch. And so specifically because Bruno Fernandes hasn't tracked back into the defensive third, he's now in an optimal position in the counter to receive the ball in what I call the Ozil area. The best counter-attack in the history of football, or at the very least a contender, was Jose Mourinho's Real Madrid side from 2010 to 2013, with the 2011-2012 season in particular being probably Mourinho's best attacking side of his career. And Mesut Ozil was integral to Mourinho's attack. Like Ten Hag's United, Real Madrid had an inside forward from the left in Cristiano Ronaldo, who was their main scorer, who also had the pace and movement to provide those diagonal runs from out to in into goal scoring positions. Rashford obviously is nowhere near as clinical as Ronaldo was, nor do United have a deeper line forward like Benzema, who can drop off and link the play seamlessly, or a ball carrying winger midfielder like Di Maria, who can drive the attack from within his own half into the final third all by himself. But they do have an advanced playmaker in Bruno Fernandes, who like Mesut Ozil thrives in a quick transition in attack because of his ability to thread perfectly weighted and timed killer through balls, and that's what we saw in this move. Before the ball is even played into Bruno Fernandes, you can see not only does the Portuguese have acres of space with Hojlund dropping off, leaving Skip isolated, but on the far side, because of Porro's advanced positioning when Tottenham had the ball in United's half, Rashford now has a 10-yard head start on the right back, and so when the pass does go into Fernandes, Rashford has now got himself into the optimal position to make this diagonal run in behind, looking straight across the defensive line, able to sit ahead of Porro and Van der Ven on the far side because of Romero's deeper positioning, and from here Bruno Fernandes' curling through ball is not only threaded flawlessly through the gap between Romero and Porro, but also has a backspin to hold up slightly, dropping exactly into Rashford's path. But I actually think Rashford's first touch here is poor. The ball is good enough for his first touch to knock the ball directly in front of him, and if he is able to do this, he's racing through on goal in a similar position to the goals he scored last season against Arsenal and Liverpool at Old Trafford. However, Rashford's touch this season is not as clean as it would be last season, and so he ends up in a wide position entering the box with Porro able to recover a goal side position. But nevertheless, even here Rashford is still in a great position, but I actually think he's incredibly fortunate that this does end with a goal, as he's so indecisive, as he was numerous times in these sorts of positions throughout the game. I think he should be getting his head up and seeing Garnacho free at the back post, and immediately driving down the outside with a big enough touch to then allow him to drive a low cross across the box for Garnacho to tap in at the back post. Instead, he's coming inside looking for that shot with his right foot, which I actually don't think is a problem. It's just his execution which is poor, rather than say the actual decision. He seems to have very little disguise in these sorts of situations, with it being blatantly obvious what he wants to do. And credit to Romero, he reads Rashford like a book, getting out quickly to support Porro as Rashford comes inside, and forcing him to take another touch, which then leads to him getting crowded out not just by the Tottenham defenders but also by Hojlund as well. And really Rashford just wastes this opportunity, but is fortunate that a doggy's tackle leads to the ball falling into the path of Hojlund, who shows exactly what you expect an elite level goal scorer to do in this sort of position, whereas Rashford has a knack of not taking a strong enough touch initially to shift the ball out of his feet into a shooting position, which results in him then taking too many softer touches, leading to him getting crowded out. Hojlund is much more decisive, shifting the ball out of his feet with his first touch, but recognising he only has one more touch to change the angle so the Tottenham defenders can't block the shot. And the touch is weighted perfectly, setting himself up for an explosive shot which fires past Vicario in goal, giving United a lead inside the opening 5 minutes. And so this goal perfectly exemplified what United and Bruno Fernandes are best at, transitioning the attack quickly after a turnover in the defensive third, and a killer through ball to release Marcus Rashford in behind. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, check out some of my others, subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when my videos come out as well.